southeastern boundary of Campoland. Nature in this place was endowed with many delights. There are trees everywhere, bobo grass, some obscure beetle. The countryside is the best of all. That's what the protagonist thought. Now he'll be quietly weeding the fields. Apart from him and a couple people, there's no one here. No lords in need of protection. No meetings starting at dawn. No more. Yashua Rudel had a memory of a past life. He was an ordinary office clerk in Japan, and he died alone from the exhaustion of office work. And when he woke up, he was reborn as the son of a duke and thought he was lucky. However, he thought so only until he was 3 years old. At that time, famine reigned in the Duchy of Rudel due to repeated poor harvests. As a result, there was unrest and even deaths. In a state of such crisis, it would not be surprising at all if a rebellion broke out. If it goes on like this, then Yashua's dream of a quiet life will fly into tatters. From that moment on, he sprang into action, loyal to his father and ministers, using the knowledge of modern Japan. By trial and error, he began to rebuild the duchy. With this knowledge, he carried out one reform after another and through this gained the support of the people. But this did not bring his dream of a peaceful life any closer. One day the butler Runberg warned that if things continued like this, they risked going without food. By this he means to say that the land here is barren. The boy tried to reassure himself that if nothing grows, they can always buy it. But it looks like that will be difficult. Suddenly, many voices were heard outside the window. The popular crowd exclaimed, greeting Yashua. As it turned out, a multitude of people followed him with their belongings. Though exiled, yet still a hope for his people. He sighed heavily. It had all become clear. Yashua sees, they are but one of the first. He came on horseback, and these are the ones who walk fast and live nearby. Indeed, food is so scarce. He ordered Runberg to gather Ellie and the others for an emergency meeting. To get a good night's rest, he would solve this problem quickly. For now, farewell to his quiet life. In addition to the two of them, Walter and the two maids, Ellie and Araru, were present at the meeting. Yashua indicated that he wanted to survey the surroundings first. First of all, if there are any bodies of water like rivers or lakes nearby, he could provide the neighborhood to Walter and Runberg. Secondly, if there are dangerous beasts and animals suitable for hunting. And third, local herbs whose inspection can be entrusted to the girls. He also asked to cooperate with the new arrivals. The guy was shocked to see the stand here. It was a gift from his people now. Somebody brought this thing. When Yashua took his seat, the crowd cheered. He turned to the people of the Duchy of Rudel. They followed him to this place called Campoland and went so far. Instead of the duchy that had become rich, they came here. This truly pleased him. The people regarded the young duke as their only ruler. Yashua realized that in such an environment, he couldn't just ask them to come back. He inquired if the people would live with him here. Even though the land was empty and barren, they were willing to do anything just to live with him. Yashua understood everything. He wants to eat, so the boy promised to rid them of hunger in 3 years. Only then will he become a symbol of prosperity and be able to quietly leave them by his side. And then he would finally begin his quiet life. Ellie and Araru found many herbs that they even pulled out along with the roots. Just as he had taught, among the roots there were also some that were edible. Yashua used his gift of evaluating plants. The gift is an ability given by the god at birth. One of the plants was cassava. It could be used instead of wheat, so he suggested emphasizing its cultivation. Ellie assumed that its leaves would become wheat, but that turned out not to be the case. Like potatoes, when her roots swell to resemble bulbs, they can be dug up, processed, and baked into bread. The girl wondered what it would taste like. Eru reported the return of the boys from their reconnaissance. Yashua was eager to hear from them. Runberg surveyed the north, Walter the south. Butler decided to report first. A medium-sized river flows north for a 30-minute walk. The speed of the current makes it difficult to cross. It is impossible to tell the exact depth without diving, but as it is at least 20 meters wide, he assumes that the depth must be corresponding. Beyond the river are the rocks, and nothing can be seen beyond them. North of the river, that is, northeast of the estate, are woods suitable for hunting. On the other side, on the contrary, trees are sparse and mostly bare ground. Walter is next to report. He thinks that the southeastern part connects with the forest on the northeast. The south is mostly reddish-brown earth and there are hardly any trees either. In the north, there is a rock overhanging 100 feet high that if it falls, you can't pick up a bone. Walter brought fruit with him, which he dumped on the duke's table. The butler found this action unacceptable. Yashua stared at the fruit. Among them was a guava, an edible fruit. A pineapple caught his special attention. It's kind of like a pineapple, but it's called the assassin's favorite. From the name, he supposes it is loved by monsters. The guy suggested planting it in a remote spot and seeing if it attracts anyone. Then they could eat pineapples regularly and guava for dessert. Finally, a tired Joshua returned to his pillow. He kept thinking about the quiet life that would come in 3 years. There was anxiety in the palace over Duke Rudel's absence. Had he really been banished? The saint didn't understand what was troubling them. All they had to do was what the Lord said. There is no need for advice or doubt. She stated that everything is the Lord's will. The girl, learning that Joshua was in exile, could not forgive this and demanded that the study be completed without her. Dwarf Garm and Dwarf Tor were amazed that he had gotten into such a wilderness. Joshua is very surprised to see the boys here. What about their shop in the duchy? They replied that there were 3 others there besides them, so there was someone to look after. They knew there was nothing here before they arrived. No fields, no houses. That was why they were so curious to see what he would do. Garm, clasping his eyes, was about to break one piece of news. There are no magic stones in Campoland. Magic stones are local batteries that use magical energy like electricity for household use. Joshua hoped they'd get through it somehow. It would have to be inconvenient for a while. Someone standing over them stated that there was nothing to worry about. Since there are no magic stones, then use the girl's genius. The guy recognized Sequoia. She had heard about the land here, so she had brought something good with her. This is a long-lasting lantern that doesn't use the power of stones. Instead of energy, it uses the constituents of burning stone. It will be faster to see. When Sequoia decided to test it, it exploded, and she was disappointed at the failure. When the Duke took his seat at the table, he sent Aru and the others to search for land under cassava. The rest of the party will do the logging. While looking for land, Aru can gather roots as well. He'll examine them later, and there's no need to worry about the forest. Joshua will talk to Garm about it. He also asked them to look for lime and burning stones. Next was a task for Runberg. The Duke asked him to take a horse and ride along the river in the north. A lot of people may not take with him. Joshua wants him to scout the situation. If he's on horseback, he should take 10 minutes. After all, water resources are important to life. Ellie wanted to express another thought. Is the Duke planning to establish a town here? The boy thought it was necessary. Since people would be arriving, he thought it was necessary to prepare for it. The girl thought then it would be foolish not to name this town as well as the river nearby. Sequoia had already thought of a name. She remembered that Joshua had once told her about the City of Sciences. Since there are no magic stones, she suggested calling it Kagakutoshi. The Duke also thought of something. Looking at the name of the city, he knows what they will name the river. He decides to call it the Rubicon, which carries the meaning of a new beginning. The Rubicon is the river that legends say Julius Caesar crossed. This touched Runberg to the core. With that settled, Joshua instructed Walter to survey the western and eastern wastelands, as well as the southern forest, and try to dig up something. Walter could use some rocks, also to see if there was a black pond or something strange. He suggested he take Sequoia with him. He just had room for more on his horse. The girl was confident that in terms of orienteering in the forest, she wouldn't lose to elves, let alone humans. Sequoia wanted to find something that Joshua would like. She knows better than anyone what he means. They need ore, sand, and even plants. They all interest him. Their future actions depend on what they find. Thanks to the people, the work with the forest went much faster. The dwarf Tor could not help but inform Joshua of a problem. He had no luck finding the burning stones. The boy knew that burning stones contained almost no magic, but they emitted heat. They are necessary in everyday life. If there are no stones and other things to use as fuel, it will be difficult to start a fire. One of the men thought that burning stones were easy to find because they were literally lying around. Would we really have to order some? But Joshua doesn't want to ask someone for something so basic from the start, and offered to find how they could be replaced. Nothing else is left but to make coal from firewood. As Garm thought, neither is here. Joshua turned to him. The boy informed him of the problem with the burning stones. Garm also saw that there was no success with it. He had already looked around here too, but nothing. The Duke walked out to the river. As they said, the river is about 20 meters wide. The current is quite fast. He wondered about its depth. Ellie was pleased when she realized that the gentleman had thought of something. The boy suggested building a water wheel. He knew that with Garm and Tor, they could definitely do it. Sequoia would help them too. First they would build one, then 3 more. Dwarf asked for it to be given to him. It will still be good training for the students. Joshua was interested in what was on the other side of the river. It would be dangerous to cross it. The thought of making a boat visited him. Ellie offered to climb on her back, but the Duke thought that was too much. The maid was distressed by his distrust. Joshua was worried about her getting wet. She cried when she realized he was embarrassed to ride on her back, not intending to listen to him. Ellie didn't see it as a cause for concern. After all, she is a maid. Joshua had no choice but to do as she asked. The girl resolutely took him in her arms. It made his heart stop. They made it safely to the other side of the river. As he had thought, there were no old trees on this side. Perhaps something had destroyed them once. He considered the color of the rock, which was about a dull cream. It was cool. While Joshua couldn't make any sense of it, he needed to investigate what it was made of. The boy cheerfully reported the presence of transparent sand here. It is a constituent of glass. The maid's face brightened when she realized that he had planned it all out and had come here for the sand right away. Joshua replied that it was only a coincidence and he was here for another. He will look at some more things when he returns to the estate, but it seems to him that the vegetation here was destroyed by a volcanic eruption or something. Perhaps it was burned by dragons, and that's a possibility. Ellie didn't see it as a cause for concern. Dragons and their like are rarely found near human settlements. As soon as the girl said this, they were discovered by a huge creature. The boys had to get their feet out of here as soon as possible. Some creature engaged in a fight with the enemy and won the fight. Surprisingly, it turned out to be an ordinary penguin. The two realized that they had to get out of here faster. Eastern part of the forest. Walter found out that this was the right place for the heat-loving pineapples. Just as Mr. Joshua had said, the pineapples had been invaded by killer trees. That's what the locals call them. Garuga replied that technically they are walking plants. Naturally, he's knowledgeable about it. It's the basics. One of the squad turned to Walter. Killer trees, if necessary, can hunt animals that are attracted to the flavor of the berries. That is, ambush them. They need to decide what to do. Do they cut it down? There seems to be something unusual going on here. Walter told them to approach and not to be afraid. They are not the enemy's target. In the experiment, the monster became agitated and aggressive. The plant received a big blow to its side. Garuga assumed they were lightning bolts. He was surprised by Walter's decision to just walk away. Plants with such abilities are very rare. Joshua-san would be interested. Maybe kill it and take it to the Lord. Walter decided to leave it to the Lord. He reported that he had found new berries and brought them to the residents. He also watched the killer trees and their prey. They were attracted to the pineapples after all. They stay that way in the thicket. Joshua asked if he had assessed the situation and if they were a danger in his opinion. Walter confirmed that they were. The beasts that prey on walking plants use lightning bolts. These are definitely the ones that are dangerous. He noticed the Duke's interest. We must decide what to do with them. Exterminate them or observe them. Lightning is electricity. Getting electricity out of monsters is incredibly difficult. But if they can create lightning and that power can be curbed, it's worth a try. The guy ordered him to watch the lightning beasts, deciding to try to capture them. Thus Joshua came up with a name for them. So that's what they'll be called now. If the thunder beasts have long since learned to generate electricity, other animals must live near them. They should be insensitive to lightning by now. If they can take advantage of that, they might be able to catch a thunder beast as well. Walter appreciated Sir's idea. The girls asked about the minerals. Would they be able to identify them? Tor recognized which one was which. Cinnametal, mithril, iron, halite, lime, copper, glass, volcanic ash, and several other varieties of rare magical ore. Sequoia marveled at Tor's famous sniff for minerals. So, at the very least, they had useful ore. The question of the right volume remains. Volcanic ash and glass, Joshua thinks, will not be a problem. Bardo knows what halite is. It's that stuff that if you lick it, it tastes salty. The Duke instructed him to discuss with Runberg how much of it they would need and proceed with the extraction. Both halite, volcanic ash, and iron they would need in large quantities, especially volcanic ash. They also need something to transport it all. He asked Tor if he could help with this. He was told that there was nothing wrong with it at all. Those who followed him here brought a lot of stuff with them. They would just borrow their wagons. Joshua thought that explained something. The Duke decided to deposit the volcanic ashes he had extracted in two places, on the banks of the Rubicon and farther out, in the back of the estate. Let most of it go to the latter. Walter asked what they needed the volcanic ash for. Runberg threw him an indignant look. The boy decided to tell them about several ways that volcanic ash could be used. Right now, two were of interest to them. First, by mixing it with sand, they would get cement, which they would mostly need for the walls of houses. Walter realized it was the white stuff they put bricks on. Then they would need the cement when they paved the sidewalks with bricks. The second use for volcanic ash requires more effort. While the cement is still hardening, crushed rocks or bricks are mixed in to make a strong concrete. Using this concrete, Joshua wants to build a wall to protect the city from monsters. And there is no hurry here. He studied the theoretical part of making concrete back in the duchy together with Sequoia. Since he has no practical experience, he is thinking of entrusting the experiments with production to her. Runberg wondered if the fact that work would begin in 2 places at once meant that a plan for the city already existed in Yoshua's mind. His judgment proved to be correct, and now the lad is ready to discuss with everyone the plan for the construction of the city. He said in advance that if any of them had any doubts or ideas, he would ask them to speak up regardless of rank. So Yoshua tells them how he envisions the plan for the city. It will be surrounded by a concrete wall and a moat. The height of the wall, they will discuss the details later, maybe a little lower than it. That should be enough. Runberg figured if they had to face wild beasts or monsters rather than hostile humans, a wall the height of Araru would be fine as well. After thanking the butler, the Duke continued with the fact that they would have a water wheel in the center of the city, right on the banks of the Rubicon. Yoshua said city center, but it was not what they had imagined. A central street with rows of stores and stores. No, because they have a water source in their center, they need to build many vital functional facilities. City, functionality, governance, that's what a city center would mean to them. He invited Aurora to speak. The girl felt unsure of herself. Yoshua advised her to take her time and not to formulate everything clearly at once. Araru asked if they had to build right by the water. Guy is glad she brought it up. And the answer is yes. Near the water, that is the most desirable option for them. He has come to the conclusion that the land here is sadly poor, and he does not mean that the fields are not fertile. What Yoshua means is that there is no magic ore in the land, nor is there anything that can be used as fuel. The lack of fossil fuel is unfavorable to them especially. Araru suggests that the combustible then is water, and this is precisely the case. Current water transfers energy to the wheel, and they will be able to utilize that energy. So the boys will see for themselves. Yoshua decided to continue. He said that they would have the river running through the center of the city. Beyond the river, the northern part ends in impregnable cliffs. This is a natural defense, no worse than a fortress wall. In these cliffs they will get volcanic glass and ash. The river will become the heart of the city, and it will spread far south to this very estate. This would make the city's territory too large, perhaps. After all, the cultivated fields will also be within the city limits. But that's because they don't know yet what dangers may await them outside. When it appears that it is safe there, they will move farming outside the city walls. Ellie decided to speak up about the size of the city. He had explained it to them very clearly. The point she wanted to make was about Yoshua. Just to think how all this knowledge of the arrangement of the commercial part of the city, the residential neighborhoods, even the arable lands, gardens and farms, all this wisdom accommodates his superior mind. In deciding how they would zone the city, Yoshua wanted to draw on the opinions of his subjects. How are the Garm and Tor's timber situation? Garm reported that raw wood dries, and very quickly, thanks to the magic of the dwarves and gnomes. A little more and the logs can be put to use. The Duke decided that they had better hurry up with at least a rough sketch of the city zones then. All details should be left to the subjects to decide. Personally, Yoshua would like to undertake the construction of roads. Roads diverging to the 4 corners of the world, wide enough for carriages to pass freely. That's what he would like. To build a big highway. More. Add 2 more lines. Northeast to southwest and northwest to southeast. We'll discuss the road surface later. In the meantime, we need to mark the locations. Actually, the Duke likes the look of brick paving. Maybe they'll pave the roads with brick at the same time they build brick houses. The boy apologized to Ellie for being distracted. The girl asked if she understood correctly that the place where all the tracts intersect should be large and open. Yoshua replied that this was correct, and the place might have to be made too even at first. What she wanted to say could be called a proposal or petition, and is related to what they are discussing. Yoshua has not yet announced what he will name the city. Why not install something symbolizing the city in the most crowded place? The girl thought it might be a silly idea, while the Duke thought just the opposite. He suggested that Ellie and Araru take on the project together. Garm with Tor will help with the implementation. The girls were surprised that he would really trust them with it. The guy emphasized that the responsibility would also be on them. They promised to do everything possible and impossible to create a symbol worthy of passing down the generations. Yoshua relies entirely on them for this. It was a frightening enthusiasm. What would it be? Everything seems to be working. Now that they are satisfied that all is well, Tor will tell his disciples to put the wheel away. Yoshua wanted to make the axle of the water wheel out of iron or mithril, but they don't have a furnace for that, so the axle is made of wood. From now on, Garm, Tor and his boys will do the urgent work. But first they need a furnace, so it will have to wait. Yoshua doesn't think it will be ready anytime soon. They walked out to the reeds growing by the river. When its stalk in Yoshua's hand moved, Araru wanted to pounce on it, but tried to control herself, for she was no longer a child. She thought he wanted to play with the thing. The boy told her that it was a reed. If dried and processed, it can be used to make many different things. Eru marveled at his knowledge, even though he thought it was all-knowing information. The two heard a sound coming from nearby. They came to the guys engaged in manufacturing. As Joshua realized, they are here making a furnace. Just as he said, when the mortar hardens, it will make a furnace of concrete. Concrete made with volcanic ash is called Roman concrete. Joshua is confident that this oven will turn out stronger than one made of clay, but it will take time to harden. It can't just be baked like clay, so that's probably it for today. So, the pouring is complete. What surprised Joshua was how good they were at it. It was the first time he had ever seen them do such a thing. He thanked them and promised to come back tomorrow to see how it turned out. They replied to him that the hardening was not yet complete. They would show him what only they dwarves and dwarfs could do. Sequoia will help too. Garm and Tor called upon the spirits of fire and iron, earth and wind. The turn came to Sequoia. She called upon Sylph, the spirit of wind. Thus the efforts of each of the boys united. Joshua was amazed that the furnace had completely solidified. He couldn't help but recognize that the magic was incredible. The Duke decided to discuss the follow-up work with everyone. This is just the beginning. So, the first thing they need to do is to build a forge. He wants their apprentices to build a building around the furnace. They use the power of the water wheel to, in addition to the furnace, build a mech. Can he ask Era for anything other than to accompany him? She replied that she should be where Joshua could see her. Then he asked her to gather that reed for him. It's not far, is it? The maid gladly accepted the offer. Joshua noticed something that looked like a soft rubber hose. He had never seen something that looked like rubber here. Is there really rubber here? Looks like he's lost a fortune. However, it's too late to think about it. Tor explained that it was the skin of an imperial frog. It's true that he can't just take the skin off and use it. This process is similar to tanning hides. I wondered if the materials used were different from those used in tanning. The dwarf thinks they would be the same. Joshua then hopes that there are imperial frogs here. Perhaps there will be monsters here that look like them. He'll talk to Volter about it. He doesn't like the idea of catching frogs, however. It was clear from his smirk that he was up to something. In Japan, rubber products were found everywhere. If they could produce rubber, many opportunities would open up for them. If they have plenty of rubber, they can make many things. However, they need to normalize mass production. There might be a plant of some sort. We need to explore all possible options. They need to improve their living conditions as soon as possible. Old people and people with poor health were housed in hastily built huts. If there are more people in the future, the situation will become more complicated. Joshua announced that he was going to build a city on the land and asked if they would help him. The people responded to Duke Rudel's request. Suddenly the lad declared that he was no longer. But to rule this land, it needs a name. Hereby, he declares. Taking a deep breath, the guy prepared to sound out the name. The city on the border of Campland will be called Oracles, and he will be the Earl of the Borderland from now on. They can forget the name Rudel and call him simply Joshua. They are not united as a nation, and are only just beginning to build their homes. But by uniting their minds, they can work toward a unified goal. It seems to him that they will succeed. The saint was asked to sign the document. The girl asked Servald as if it was really necessary. Everything is in God's hands and will be as he wills. And do they really have no choice? Maybe so, but nothing can be changed now. Is this really the oracle's wish? Either way, there's nothing to be done. And God said nothing to them. Servaldas did not understand why this was so. It was said that the tribe of Levenstock Beastmen had suddenly grown cold to them. He had done his best to get the country behind him, so what more did he want from him? His interlocutor admitted that it was terrible. He too was visiting Al today. Another asked if she had heeded his advice. He did not think so. She is the one whom the Lord himself has chosen, and she is the oracle. No nobleman dares to give her orders, or tell her what she must do. There are still traces of the fame that Duke Rudel achieved, but it will not last long. They had heard rumors that someone who looked like a lord but wasn't one had finally left the country. It seems to be the Duke's daughter. She loves him and believes in him. Servaldas also wants to go to them. However, giving up his beloved duchy will tarnish all his achievements. It was impossible to disagree with him. You can't just leave your duchy, even if it becomes completely impoverished. Joshua turned to the people of the feud. Thanks to their work, it was possible to harvest so much timber in a short period of time. He thanked them from the bottom of his heart. Everyone thought he seemed to care about his subjects, but he only thanked them briefly, didn't he? He would like to make a home for the villagers as soon as possible, but unfortunately it will have to wait until the wood dries. Is there a person among the villagers who can dry the wood? There are. As for how to proceed, they will receive instructions from Runberg, who is here now. If the farmers have any questions, they can contact Error. Joshua addressed the dear residents of the feud, rousing them. For Runberg, he already had one request. Whatever it was, the butler said to order. The lad asked if he remembered them discussing the planned road laying. He realized that it couldn't be laid here. Runberg remembered quite distinctly. Would it be possible to draw a line using crushed lime instead of ropes, which they didn't have? If that's what he meant, Runberg believed it was possible. Then he suggested drawing a line from the palace to the central square. There are always people walking by the palace, after all. After the wood dries, the dwellings will be built quickly. At the same time, he wants to fix a place for the road. Joshua would like to come to Garm and his companions with some hospitality. But if he returns to the palace now, it will be too late. Ellie asked to bring her something. The girl began to deftly catch fish from the river. Her work was amazing. You couldn't see her hands. They are trained to be able to feed the master in an emergency. This is a necessary skill for a maid. Even though she's a maid, she looks more like a martial artist. Runberg vouched by saying that he could be trusted with a maid, so she was hired right away. Is this how maids behave? On the banks of the Rubicon River, Joshua came to visit the boys, which surprised them. By this time the water wheel forge was finished. Ellie's attention was caught by a strange box. This wooden box is a blacksmith's bellows, and they pump air. The bellows are driven by a water wheel, and thus force air into the furnace of the forge. If fossil fuel is used, the resulting heat is enough to heat the furnace to about the melting point of iron. If no fuel is available, however, one has to burn wood and charcoal, which do not produce the desired temperature. Wood will only ignite with the help of strong air flow during kindling. By analogy, a mechanism was invented that blows ordinary air to increase the temperature in the stove. To blow air with a hand pump requires labor, and the workers are terribly tired. And here they use a water wheel. With the coming of Joshua came air. Isn't that great? They can make a real fire. Garm thought he would like to try. Streams of air headed toward the fire. The flames flared up even more, mesmerizing the guy. The color of the flame changes from red to orange. It gradually lightens and is almost white. It looks like it's already possible to melt iron and start forging. Joshua thanked them. Now they will be able to mine iron and forge it without fossil fuels. As Tor realizes, this is all just the beginning. He wondered what little Joshua would do next. Indeed, he has many plans. Next, he would like to mass produce iron and glass. But right now their priority is housing. They will have to wait for the workers for about 3 days. Sequoia couldn't wait to find out what he would do then now. There's no magic stone in Campland, so he decided that a sewer and water system is needed. This problem can be solved by laying a sewer system. However, this is a big project. Inspired by the idea, Garm thought that concrete would be needed. But we still need to discuss whether we can get by with just concrete. Also need a bridge to bring in the raw material, silica sand. Joshua suggested designing a bridge and using it to carry the water line. Then the sewer system would probably be the most labor-intensive job. We're still erecting the outer wall. They would indeed need labor, but they would hardly need craftsmen. If you enlist the forces of all the residents, you could probably get it all done. Then, to get a better idea of how they should build it, it would be good to make a trial model. With that, the problem was solved. Garm doesn't seem to think concrete is all that fireproof. Joshua realized that they had a problem with the furnace. They have built a low fire, but you can see that cracks have already started to show. The inside would be better lined with bricks. The boy apologized to Garm. He hadn't thought about fireproofing. The dwarf replied that just because concrete can't withstand high temperatures doesn't mean it's bad. It can be used perfectly well in construction. So when the kiln cools down, they'll immediately line the inside with fireproof bricks. Joshua realized that he didn't know anything. It can't be helped. When the guys tested the concrete at the duchy, they just watched to see if it would harden or not. Then Joshua goes back to the palace with Ellie. An eerie roar of the creature was heard. Reacting instantly, Ellie told the Lord not to move. Sequoia realized that it was a magic beast that had come to look at them. Joshua thought that magic beasts weren't monsters after all. The maid blocked his way. She couldn't let anything happen to Mr. Joshua. Sequoia also decided that it was better for him to stay here. She asked Ellie to take care of him and Tora and his companions. The maid was willing to do that even if it cost her life. Apparently, despite this beast's strength, it was in no mood to harm them. Sequoia knew she could handle it alone. She is a kitsune, after all. A sacred beast is fine, but a simple magic beast can't lose to someone who is called a beast controller. Joshua flinched at that. The girl was wary. When she discovered the beast, she leaped high over it. She was surprised to meet her master. Joshua worried if everything was all right now. Sequoia replied that the magic beast had turned out to be an aggressive herbivore, as expected. Joshua was shocked when he realized that he was reasonable. Tor wanted to learn about the magical beast in general terms. According to the girl, they exchanged a few words. It looks like it might be the master of the forest and seems to have recently encountered humans. Since that was the case, Joshua wondered if he had encountered Walter's unit or Runberg's unit. Since she's talking about the forest master, does that mean he's strong? Good thing the guy didn't order Walter to hunt. Sequoia remembered that he said he controlled thunder. Joshua realized that it was a thunder beast. She does not know the name of it. Since the thunder beast turned out to be a herbivore, the boy thought he could ask it for help. To do so, he asked Sequoia to help him. Except for one incident, the forge was ready. From this day forward, until the housing problem is solved, Runberg will guard the forge, and Walter will guard the people employed at the construction site. Eru and Ellie got busy negotiating with the locals in the central square of Oracle. As for Joshua, he acted in conjunction with Sequoia. She was now clinging to him and was not going to let go. The boy reminded her that he was in charge here. He decided to talk about that magical beast from yesterday called Reiju. Joshua wants to find his favorite food. He also needs to research materials to replace the frogs with. Also, he wants to mine some metal. The girl realized that he wants to use lightning. This is so exciting. When talking about lightning, Joshua is referring to electricity. It will help his dream to rise to the next level. Except that even if he could talk Reiju into it or otherwise be able to generate power, he doesn't have any electrical appliances. What's he supposed to do? Even so, electricity has a wide range of uses. He wants to find a way to use electricity that suits this world. Sequoia inquired about what lightning could be used for. Joshua gave metallization as an example, or electrolysis, basically for a lot of things. It sounded fun to her. But first they would go to the forge, and afterward they would check on the progress of the housing. Tor took the opportunity to say that he had heard about Joshua's busy self-discipline these 3 days. But what about the bridge? Does he plan to build the bridge? The guy replied that he really wants to, but like he said yesterday, he has to sort out the housing first. In the meantime, he could prepare the layouts. As it turns out, the layout is already ready. Tor doesn't have it with him, but he will send it to the estate. The dwarf asked to study it in the evening. Joshua informed him of Eru and Ellie's plans to erect a monument in the central square, and asked him to help them until they could deal with the bridge. The proposal interested him. It will be in the most prominent place in the city. It will be the symbol of the Oracle City. They will install it in the very center of the square. Inspired, the dwarf asked to rely on him. He will take care of it immediately. Tor is too impatient. Meanwhile, Garm handed Sequoia the saw. There's another sword, also made by him. The boys recognized that it looked impressive. Sequoia suggested that Joshua take a closer look. The sword and saw are glowing with a blue light. They are made of blue steel, and the other is made of mithril, using rare magic metals for carpenter's tools. That's so like Garm. He had gotten all the materials he needed for this. But Garm wants 10 more of these swords and saws. Joshua asked him if blue steel is harder than iron. The dwarf explained that it was first-rate, cutting iron like butter, which was expected of magical metals. Garm found it strange that he knew nothing about blue steel. The fellow replied that he hadn't studied magic metals yet. Suddenly, he asked to talk about blue steel, mithril, and magic metals in general. A magic metal is an alloy of metal and mana. Mana is similar to magic power in a way. All living things possess mana. It is a kind of energy. Mana is an integral part of their lives. It's used everywhere, in the form of magic or magical tools, like magic lamps. By combining ordinary metal with mana, various alloys with their own special qualities can be produced. More or less, it's all clear so far. Joshua inquired about the alloys that could be obtained. There are 3 famous magic metals: mithril, blue steel, and also orichalc. Joshua had never seen orichalcum yet. If magic metals are alloys of magic and ordinary metal, the resulting mithril is silver, and blue steel and orichalcum. Now he understood. In the fantasy world, mithril is derived from silver. That's just a guess, though. If you fuse silver with magic, you get mithril. Orichalc is derived from gold, and blue steel from iron. Until he did the experiment, he couldn't be sure, but could Garm tell him more about mithril? The dwarf was in agreement, but what exactly? It turns out that when forging, he uses the same furnace in which he works with iron. Mithril behaves the same way as the primary metal, since their melting point is the same. That makes sense to the guy, except that there is no such thing as unadulterated silver in the soil. He asked if mithril also contains them. Garm replied that it did not. Mithril exists without impurities. In a way, it's like a gemstone, so it's easy to melt and harder than steel. Mithril is amazing, though it was originally just silver. Mithril is lighter and stronger than iron. It also has resistance to magic. Silver cannot be lighter than iron. Silver has a specific gravity of 10, while iron has 7 whole and 8 tenths. Isn't it strange that mithril is lighter and harder than iron? Is it because of magic? Joshua was once again convinced that real magic is amazing. Sequoia didn't see anything strange about it. It's just that Joshua thinks he should deepen his knowledge of magic. He will try to study it scientifically. Interested, she asked him to tell her about it. Without Sequoia, it would be difficult for him to understand magic metals. Then he would count on her during the experiment. The neighborhood they finally reached looks like a pineapple plantation. No sign of the killer plant. That pineapple is the beast's favorite food. Walter says the killer plant feeds on pineapples. He also says this is the plant the beast comes to eat. So this is definitely where the lightning struck. This is the perfect material. Almost at the last moment, Sequoia stopped him. She used the wind, reminding him that they should protect both themselves and him. The guy thought that something had happened. It made him feel better. She would protect him after all. Joshua asked to get off him. As they got closer, the guy used a plant assessment. Among them was the fruit of the killer plant. It is the same as tree poison in taste. It uses this fruit to hunt and feed on animals. So these are the remains of the thunder beast's meal. Everything around it is burnt, for it glittered here as it attacked the killer plant. The surface of the bushes is black, but not burned. Though close to the center, Sequoia found that the spider's web was not burned. Perhaps the spider has fluffed a new web, so it can be collected. Joshua will make quick work of the shrubbery. I think it's come. Is this tree exactly like that? It seems so, yes. Wood fiber and resin are good insulators. Sequoia asked what does insulator mean. She assumed it was what he had mentioned, like a lightning-like substance. In that case, some kind of magic metal, perhaps even a magic fiber. They use precious lightning-proof substances. Especially to weave magic fibers, you need a high level of magical skill. Joshua wondered if the insulator fiber was. But even if it exists, it shouldn't be like that. If the production is complicated and the material is precious, then it can only be used here. It should be produced in Kagakutoshi in the first place, the same thing that is not. Sequoia asked to explain about the isolation center. After all, it can't be that only he is satisfied. Joshua explained that the insulator and lightning protection are themselves different. He suggested that she then explain about lightning protection. Lightning is the same as flashing. Anything that flashes, he calls electricity. Insulators indicate substances that block electricity. As the girl realized, this is not to stop it, but to shut it off. Basically, in Kagakutoshi, it is already possible to get hold of this insulating substance. Glass. Sequoia stated that glass armor is tricky. You can't just use glass, even if it's going to be garm or tor. Joshua explained that they would make an insulator from the fibers and resin of this shrub. The fibers can be used to make paper, and the resin could be applied to armor. The girl decided that resistance to lightning could be acquired with this tree. The boy replied that lightning resistance is different. It just doesn't conduct electricity, but given enough temperature, it will burn. Something Sequoia doesn't understand very well yet. Resistance to lightning implies protection against all kinds of lightning, whether it's magic or a natural phenomenon. Pure electricity has protection. But thunderbolts, he's not sure, of course, but the interaction of heat and lightning is the end of it. This isn't about trying to figure out if it's a thunder beast, or maybe it's her excited dream. Joshua will do a good job of double-checking too. That way they won't get electrocuted. There's one more important thing. We need to ask Garm for it. Before the beast returned, he offered to leave while Sequoia offered to take some more things. The boy decided that one was enough. He's not soft after all. When Garm heard about the lightning rod, he reasoned that it was necessary to thread a bronze thread on the iron pole. Tomorrow before lunch Joshua could come for it, which was very soon. Then he should ask Tor to apply the resin. The dwarf realized that by applying the resin obtained from this tree, things stopped conducting electricity. Joshua wanted to ask him to make something light but able to cover the whole body. Tor thinks a hooded cape would be perfect. He needs 3 of them. The lightning rod will protect them from the lightning strike, and the insulating covering will protect them from the effects of the strike. Now they are fully prepared to face Reiju. Joshua asked Walter about the situation in the city. These few days everything is calm. Under the Lord's rule, everyone has begun to work as one. Since there are no disagreements, that's fine. There are no external threats either. Walter hoped that at least a wild boar would show up, and would love to hunt. If he's free, Joshua thought, he'll agree to accompany him on a short walk. The boy said in advance that they would meet up with Reiju. Walter gladly accepted the offer. Joshua also added that another companion would join them. They would need a physically strong companion. He offered to wait for him at the forge. The companion turned out to be incredibly huge and obviously strong. Yashua was frightened at the mere sight of him. Walter introduced Garuga. He was an adventurer. Perhaps he doesn't know, but Yashua introduced himself as the steward of this duchy anyway. Garuga said nothing in response. Walter apologized for him and admitted that although you can't tell from him, this guy is very worried. Garuga instantly knelt down before him and introduced himself as a former adventurer. He doesn't know how to address him properly. Yashua thought that formalities were unnecessary and asked to be treated the same way as Walter. When Sequoia realized that they were finished, she introduced herself and Garm. The dwarf was about to make a lightning rod adjustment. Sequoia noticed that the lightning rod needed a metal rod. In addition, she had heard that the tip needed to be sharpened. Yashua replied that this was correct, threading that bronze wire was the most important item. They would hope it would be fun. As Walter realized, they would take him with them. The guy had almost forgotten the electricity-resistant capes. With them, one can avoid getting electrocuted when coming in contact with lightning. Their opponent is Reiju. They must take all possible measures. Yashua was amazed that Garuga was carrying that heavy lightning rod all the time. How does his body even work? The guys reach the place. Reiju isn't here. Yashua wants to check on things. He hopes they'll be lucky enough to meet him. After a while, he still hasn't come. On second thought, it was to be expected. There was no sign of Reiju here yesterday either. He can't be in the same place all the time for his convenience. But if he had a nest here, Guy wants to find out something, so he suggested Sequoia to get Reiju's attention. She replied that she could try. The girl realized that he wants to find Reiju's habitat. The guys can find it, but they want to befriend Reiju, not subdue him, right? Then they'd better not do that. If he feels threatened in his own nest, what will they do? Suddenly something caught the guy's attention. And it wasn't Reiju, but a predatory plant. Its sweet fragrance is so good. Thus it began to lure Yashua. His food is here. The guy suggested just waiting an hour for Reiju himself. If Reiju doesn't like it, they will ask him to cut down this predatory plant, take it with him and study its properties. Finally, the moment of the beast's appearance came. Yashua analyzed that it was about 5 meters long. Pale lightning bolts cover its entire body. It is definitely him. Sequoia got ready to talk to him. All hopes are on her. Yashua can't hear what they're saying. Is everything all right? The girl relayed the words to Reiju. Depending on the details, he will fulfill his request. But first he wants to eat. The guy was surprised by the fact that he looked scary, but he wasn't actually a bad person, that is, a beast. Yashua also asked him to leave him one berry. He wants to study it and will definitely thank him afterward. Reiju did not refuse his little request. Finally, Yashua asked him for the most important thing. He wants the beast to hit the lightning rod with its strongest attack. Sequoia realized what kind of thing he meant. She doesn't know why he wants it, but it sounds interesting. Yashua was sure that she would like it. Reiju didn't mind. Guy instructed Walter and Garuga to prepare a lightning rod. They need a place where there are no tall trees. They found a suitable one. Next, Garuga must put up the lightning rod. When he did, Yashua was once again convinced of his incredible strength. It seemed that everyone was ready and the most important thing could begin. But then Reiju has another question. He asks how strong the attack should be. Yashua wanted him to apply the strongest attack and give his best. There was a powerful roar from the beast. Its tremendous strength struck the lightning rod. At last, what Yashua was trying to accomplish was accomplished. As he had asked, it was loud. The guy asked if he had been able to generate enough power. Sequoia didn't know what his scientific word meant, so Yashua promised to explain later if necessary. He asked the girl to tell Reiju his thanks, and for allowing him to study those berries, too. The boy asked the guys for some metal thing. Using it, he realized what they had. This is what a magnet is. Reiju's lightning magnetized the metal rod. Sequoia was amazed that by using the lightning, the metal became a magnet. This is different from magic. Science is so interesting. Yashua told the boys what it means to create electricity. That is what it means to generate energy. Electricity has many uses: lighting, cleaning water, gilding, and making soap. Also, it can be used to move objects. Sequoia realized that it was something like mana. It is also versatile. Yashua heard that mana can do anything if you learn the right technique. Electricity doesn't work like that. It obeys the laws of science. Garm asked for a more detailed explanation. The boy said that to get electricity, you need a magnet and a coil. With Reiju's help, they got the magnet. They made the coil last time. Do they have more copper wire? They need to twist it, apply resin, and it's done. Copper wire conducts electricity well, but resin does not. A wire coated with resin will not conduct electricity. Thus, it can be controlled. So, the resin-covered copper wire serves as a way to move the received electricity. Joshua suggested that we go back to getting electricity. It's very simple. It is necessary to rotate a magnet between two coils. The coils are placed to the left and right of the magnet. The mechanism is simple and straightforward. Garm realized that he had to make another turbine, place the coils and rotate the magnet. And he was absolutely right. But there's something to note. The gears used in the forge. We need to change the proportions of the gears that don't spin well. For that, they'll need Joshua's help. What about the layout of Tor? Guy wants to prioritize making other tools. Getting everything ready for the house is more important than anything else. Garm realized that it was necessary to build a bridge. Joshua asked to make sure that the basic work of building the bridge and the sewer will take about 2 months. All construction work should take 3 months. If they can't get everything built in that time, they will have to wait until spring. They figured it wouldn't take that long. They have their duke. Ellie and Aruru looked at the monument that was finally ready with pleasure. The main square. Joshua saw that the construction was progressing nicely. The boy was met by maids waiting for him. As he had ordered, they set up the symbol of the city. The monument has a petite, frail body, thin shoulders, not at all suitable for a man. Joshua was shocked when he saw himself in it. Speaking of the oracle symbol, is there anyone more appropriate than Mr. Joshua? Certainly not. A statue of a god. Mr. Joshua is much better. All the people in the square thank the statue. Now they pray to it. He suggested that we forget this fit of awe for a while. So far, the construction of the residential and commercial district is progressing well. In the agricultural area, besides cassava, they have started growing fruits, vegetables, and yams. With Sekoi's help, they have been successful in the production of light bulbs. While everything was progressing well, Joshua had an idea come to mind. He proposed to create magic stones from electricity. In order to create mana from electricity and store it, he wants to create them. Sequoia doesn't think it's impossible. Reiju used mana to create lightning, or in other words, electricity. On the other hand, you can also create mana from electricity. But he's missing another important detail. Mana is usually inside the body. Reiju is using the mana stored in his body. But isn't electricity transformed from accumulated mana? It became clear to Joshua. The accumulation of electricity is a mechanism similar to a battery. Although he has a general understanding of batteries, he does not know how to make them. Besides, they would probably need a catalyst to transform the electricity into mana. He used scientific terms again. The point is that Reiju uses something like an intermediary in his body to transform mana into lightning. Joshua doesn't think he's really using a catalyst, but they'll definitely need one. Scientifically speaking, he started thinking about how they could make a battery catalyst. His wish interested the penguin, who surprisingly talked. The penguin asked what period he was from. Heisei, or maybe Taisho. No, he was definitely from the post-war time. The guy couldn't get his head around how the penguin could talk. The penguin thought so. He understands Japanese. Other people speak a language he doesn't know. It makes it so lonely. Joshua realized that he, too, had been Japanese in a past life. He couldn't understand why he had become a penguin. But it can't be helped, that's the way the other world is. Sequoia noticed that he was talking to this strange creature. Joshua replied that it was quite good at talking. The penguin emphasized that its name was Sujiro. The penguin returned to the battery. If possible, Joshua would like to create a battery from scratch. If all the materials are available, Sujiro didn't see it as a big deal. Besides, it only needs to store energy. Charging efficiency can be disregarded. Since there were no other requirements, he was willing to help. This penguin is clearly familiar with science, but Joshua has a bad feeling about it. Although he will be very grateful for his help and will definitely pay him. Sujiro asked if he really thought the penguins needed money. Joshua thought so. That penguin is annoying. Sujiro has 2 conditions. He needs food and shelter, and he also wants to learn magic. Joshua tells Sequoia that he wants to learn magic, but he doesn't understand their language. What to do? The girl replied that he could rely on her. He remembers how she communicated with Reiju. Right, she can do that with him too. Joshua couldn't understand what they were talking so enthusiastically about. The first thing Ellie did, at Sujiro's request, was to fish for him. Runberg asked if she planned to continue to serve Mr. Joshua. The girl replied that taking care of him was a happiness for her. The butler understands her desire to serve her master. Joshua doesn't know it, but she is Baron Nilman's 3rd daughter. Should she be here, she does well with the power of her gift. As the Baron's daughter, she has nothing to be ashamed of. Besides, the circumstances now are different from when Mr. Joshua was in the capital. Baron Nilman must be worried about her. Ellie thought about meeting her father, but right now, she just wanted to be Ellie. Mr. Runberg taught her how to use her gift. And not only that, she has received a tremendous amount of support. Because of that, she feels great joy in serving Mr. Joshua. Runberg asked if she intended to tell the gentleman that she was the daughter of the Baron. The girl confessed that she was afraid. She is afraid the Lord will no longer look at her as he used to. Runberg knew that he would not change his opinion of her. Also, he thinks they should tell him about the other side. His predecessor Alfred had told him about the duties of the backside and the secret to protect Mr. Joshua. Now that the Lord had been banished, it would be best to tell him everything. Backside, the abilities that the four of them possess. Because of the secret to protect the Lord, they hid their abilities from him. Ellie asked to keep her ability, Absolute Power, a secret. Runberg intends to reveal the truth only about his and Walter's abilities. The maids will remain unaffected. Ellie realized that when the time came, she too must reveal the truth. She thinks that's what Araru wants too. Then, when the time comes, the butler suggested that they all apologize together and tell the master the truth. The butler knocked on Yoshua's office and reported a visitor. The lad thought it was an urgent report from the morning and allowed him to be invited in. Yoshua heard a cry that he had heard somewhere before. The girl apologized for waiting. The festival is 3 months away. Fiona is confident that Sakuya will reach a level where he can fight Cartier. Guy is also glad to see Cherie. When he was in the county, she always took care of him. But why is she here? Has something happened? The girl recognized that he was in a predicament and couldn't just sit idly by. Yoshua thought she had come to find out about the situation. It's okay, they're doing fine. Charlotte said that if His Excellency would condescend, any backwater would turn into a magnificent city in no time. That's why she's here. The girl brought milk with her. She brought a cow, too. He can trust her to take care of him. Every morning she will deliver fresh milk to His Excellency. The boy inquired about her possessions. Charlotte replied that he need not worry. She had turned everything over to her younger brother, so she has a favor to ask of him. The girl wants to be his subordinate. This is what Yoshua should have expected from Charlotte. She is an excellent leader with an incredible ability to accomplish one project or another. In the times he has lived in the duchy, she has helped him out a great deal. But there is one snag. She's a workaholic. Duchy times. The girl brought him milk. As they say, if one drinks milk in the morning, he will have strength for the rest of the day. And now she proposed to go to work. She seemed to think only of milk and work. He can't even count how many times this was repeated. Charlotte realizes that she is not good enough to serve her master. But couldn't he find a place for her in his domain? She wants to help him in any way she can. Runberg is touched by her devotion to her lord. Since this is the case, Yoshua must pull himself together. His goal is to bring prosperity to the Oracle in 3 years, leave all worries to his successors, and live a carefree life. With a responsible girl like Charlotte, he will be that much closer to realizing his plan. Therefore, he is counting on her. The girl is as cheerful as ever. Joshua thanked everyone for coming and asked to be seated. He suggested that we start a meeting about beautifying the city. He asked Runberg to give an update on how the neighborhoods are progressing. The construction of residential neighborhoods is progressing according to plan. They have already started building Insuli. About when people will be able to move into the houses, he can't say anything because new people are arriving in their lands every day. However, he believes it won't take long if they get the newcomers involved in the construction. Joshua thought that this was a good thing. Providing people with housing is their first priority. He suggested limiting it to 5 insulas for now. That should be enough, even if more people came to join them. As for the economic district, 5 one-story stores should also be enough. Insulas are fairly easy to build. He believes they'll suffice with 3 floors with 10 rooms on each floor. An insula is an ancient Roman high-rise apartment building with a large number of apartments. One building will have 30 rooms. Even though there is not at least one store in the commercial district, over 250 people will have a roof over their heads. In addition, Joshua proposes to build brigade-designed private homes for people with families. Runberg saw that he was committed to reducing the number of homeless people as quickly as possible and could not help but say that the gentleman was so kind. His suggestion touched him to the core. It's very practical. Joshua believes that they will be able to adapt the insulas built in the shopping district into hotels. He was promised to finish the construction within 10 days. Joshua stated that they don't need such a rush. By the way, they have a great foreman, don't they? He asked to be in charge of the construction. The boy had heard that Mr. Paul was the foreman. He asked that he be invited to join him, as he thought his opinion on the arrangement of the town would not be out of place. They should take steps to protect the townspeople from outside enemies such as beasts or monsters. He suggested building observation posts and asked if they could do it without the help of a carpenter. Walter replied that they had former military men and adventurers in their ranks, so they would take care of it. They can be relied upon. Joshua thinks they don't need to worry about increased security measures for now. By the way, this isn't the first time he's asked, but could Walter gather the hunting parties, assemble and lead? Walter asked about guarding the city. Joshua has decided that Runberg will replace him during the expedition. Right now he is in charge of the construction team, but the guy would like to put Paul in charge of the project. He would also like to put someone in charge of security. Does Walter have any ideas? The man suggested Garuga or Richmond. Garuga is the leopard-headed warrior. He doesn't seem to be much of a talker and isn't very good at managing people. He probably won't refuse if Joshua asks him for a favor. But doing a job that's different from what he's done before can lead to stress and decreased efficiency. Maybe we should send him on a hunting trip with Walter. He was an adventurer after all, so it should be easier for him to work in the wilderness. That leaves Richmond. Joshua thought that Runberg was already familiar with him, but Butler has not had the pleasure of meeting this man, so I am not sure if they are talking about the same Richmond. What Walter can say about him is that he dresses very unusually. Judging from his voice, he is a middle-aged man. Joshua took an instant interest in him and asked him to invite him to join him tomorrow. It would be good if it was the same Richmond whom Runberg knows. He asked Ellie and Era to report the situation of the fields in the town square. Ellie said that every morning the people of their lovely town gather to admire his statue. It is a work of art. The boy didn't mean that, but asked what about the fields. There is nothing wrong with them. Thanks to the large number of wells, they don't have to worry about irrigation. They have just started planting crops other than cassava. Farming is quite difficult, so he would try to get a canal through the fields as soon as possible. Ellie realized that he had thought it through. He felt that they should set up the city as soon as possible. In order to do so, they needed to prepare the fields for agriculture as soon as possible. But if they planted the fields with crops, they might be destroyed while creating the canal. In that case, they will fence off the areas where the future water canals will run. Joshua is pleased that farming is progressing so rapidly, but when it comes to food, there is also a need to think about animal husbandry. On this subject he turned to Charlie. She had heard what they were talking about, hadn't she? He apologized for taking such a job on her, but he would like to put her in charge of food control. She could team up with Walter. If they find plants they can grow in their fields, they'll report back to him. Joshua puts her in charge of all matters to control the city's self-sufficiency in food. The girl is happy to take the job. That's to be expected from a workaholic. Despite him assigning her such a difficult task, she didn't even raise an eyebrow. However, he should not forget the lack of human resources in other areas. Joshua added that that wasn't all. He would also like to put her in charge of overseeing the production of necessities. He will provide her with the necessary equipment, so all she has to do is find the people. First, they need to produce necessities like cloth or paper. They have experts in fixtures and metal products, so she'd better consult with them. Charlotte can't wait to get on with it already. Joshua was once again convinced that she was definitely a workaholic. Even he would be sweating doing all this. He asked her not to overdo it. Joshua instructed Ellie to team up with Charlie and Araru to accompany him, while he would build the battery. With this question he turned to Sejiro. The guy asked him if the battery could be used as a substitute for magic stones. The penguin would suggest using plastic to create the battery, but it would be a bit hard to find here, so they would limit themselves to glass. Lead can be used as the electrode, and dilute sulfuric acid can be used as the electrolyte. The electric wire can be made of copper and insulating resin, so they would need lead and sulfuric acid. Perhaps lead is on the list of minerals they managed to find earlier. They've gotten a lot of different metals. Sejiro will be able to check it with Sekoa and tell if lead is among them. Penguin asked about the sulfuric acid. Joshua has no idea how to create it. Perhaps they can get it by using sulfur and nitrogen. Sulfur can be obtained from sulfides. Nitrogen will have to be found. Sulfur and nitrogen are also materials to make gunpowder, but so far they don't really need gunpowder. Unless he is mistaken, potassium nitrate is a water-soluble substance. It is also an important nutrient absorbed by plants from the soil. They can then find it everywhere in small amounts. Joshua wondered if he should start his search from arid areas. As far as he could remember, potassium nitrate enters the soil through animal feces. Sejiro thinks they could use the old soldiers' method of getting sulfur, but it would take a long time, and they don't have the right technology. If possible, they will try to find the saltpeter vein. Joshua hopes they will find something. He would like to talk to Sequoia and Penguin about two more things. The first, the rubber they have been searching for recently. It's an irreplaceable material. He'd also like them to think of a way to create water purification equipment. Water purification is an important task, you can't argue with that. They would try to develop it as soon as possible. Sequoia grabbed the faces of Yashua and Sejiro. She didn't like the fact that they were being secretive with each other. Apologizing, Yashua replied that he had gotten a little carried away. He decided to tell it all over again, but in simpler words. Since Eru is here, she might as well listen. Embarrassed, the girl thought it unnecessary, calling herself very stupid. Yashua didn't think so at all. If they were going to create water treatment equipment, he would also need to explain the working principle to other people who knew nothing at all about this technology. Therefore, he would like her to listen to him too. He suggested imagining fish swimming in a lake. There is also algae growing there. The fish eat this algae and defecate into the water. Subsequently, these feces enter the water and decompose, and the algae absorbs these feces, which makes it grow. This is a natural process, except that the decomposition of feces doesn't happen by itself. They decompose thanks to little creatures that feed on the feces. Now he suggested we talk about dirty water. These little creatures feed on dirty water just as they feed on feces, and they decompose that filth. Sequoia suggested that these little creatures breathe just like the fish in the lake. Her assumption turned out to be correct. The dirty water contains a lot of food for these little creatures, and if they want to increase the number of these little creatures, they need to provide them with oxygen. Organic material is decomposed with the help of microbes. Aeration, which is the process of saturating the water with air or oxygen, is used to increase the amount of oxygen in the aquatic environment. Sequoia understood the principle. That is, he wants to add air to the water to mix these creatures with the water. He didn't expect anything less from her. By doing so, they will be able to purify dirty water. By purifying the dirty water and stopping the aeration process, they would have dirt that could be mixed into the ground. The mud remaining after filtration will be very rich in beneficial substances. By repeating the aeration process, they will be able to break down the dirt into even finer particles. This way they will get a very useful mixture that can be used as fertilizer, all thanks to the high nitrate content of this mud. Eru also had some idea about water purification, so they need a device to allow these little creatures to breathe. That is exactly what Yashua wants the penguin to ask. Penguin and Sequoia studied the metal samples, and he and Eru traveled south of the capital. Just like Walter said, it is a very arid area. Although there are vast forests spread out to the east, survival here is extremely difficult. To the north of the Rubicon River are the mountain ranges. They probably have a great influence on the local climate. In any case, in this world, as on Earth, it is very difficult to find vegetation in arid areas. The border between Duchy and Camperland is rather indistinct, but it is said that if you walk a few dozen kilometers from the border village, you will find yourself in a remote area of Camperland. Who knew the amount of vegetation could change so much in a few dozen kilometers? It's kind of empty. Will they find nitrogen? Saltpeter is only found in dry form, so Yashua thought the chance of finding it here would be much higher. The birds hovering above them look like vultures and are apparently hungry. They seem to be targeting the boys. Eru declared that they would be the ones to eat them. Does the Lord like poultry meat? Yashua thought it would not be a good idea to do so. Thinking about the birds, the guy remembered something. If he wasn't mistaken, there was a cliff to the west. He suggested we go there tomorrow. The three boys made their way to it. Yashua asked Sequoia not to bend over in case she fell. The girl didn't realize how she would look inside if she didn't bend over. Yashua thinks they will find saltpeter here. He thought there might be some caves in this cliff. Saltpeter is a solidified substance made by decomposing organic matter like animal feces. Logically, then, saltpeter should be everywhere, but it's not. That's because saltpeter is easily dissolved by water and absorbed by plants. So Yashua thought it would be a good idea to look for it in arid areas. The climatic conditions met their requirements. Perhaps they are what led to the creation of such a massive rift in the earth. Be that as it may, there is no way for them to be sure until they examine the sample. Therefore, Yashua would want to see if there are caves in this cliff. Yashua's head sometimes really surprises Sequoia. Does he think it might be the lair of a flying dragon? The boy asked, do they really exist? He thought it was inhabited by birds or some bats. Come to think of it, dragons really do prefer deeper cliffs. He thought the amount of feces produced by bats would indeed exceed that of a dragon. Sequoia thanked Yashua's head. He apologized that he only had a head out of usefulness. Even though they had a sturdy rope with them, it was still dangerous to use it. Eru decided that she could handle it. Shocking Yashua, she jumped into the cliff. A wave of panic came over him, unlike Sequoia who asked him to calm down. She is a girl cat after all, so climbing the walls is easy for her, so Aru is fine. Sequoia isn't worried about her. It would be more scary if he jumped in. The girl got out of the cliff safely. She believed that the master had nothing to worry about, repeating that she was a cat. He's so glad she's okay. Aru reported on the caves. There is one upstairs and 2 downstairs, and it's all cave systems. Yashua praised her for her work. Sequoia suggested that the boys take a look around. As they walked down the cliff, Yashua could not contain his worries. Any movement caused him to panic more and more. He tried not to look down. Sequoia had heard that a kiss was very helpful in such situations. She decided to kiss him, but it was also Aru's responsibility. Yashua didn't understand why they wanted it so badly, but it seems that the gentleman no longer needs to be kissed. They found themselves at the entrance to the cave. While he was unconscious, they explored this cave a little. In 5 minutes of walking around, they did not meet anyone dangerous. Now that Yashua was awake, they could go explore the cave. It turned out that he had forgotten the lamp. The boy was worried that Aru shouldn't go too far away, or he'd still stumble. The girl reminded him that she is a cat and darkness is her friend. Cats are cats. With her powers, she could explore even the deepest part of the cave. Yashua recognized that cat people are very capable creatures. Sequoia, on the other hand, stated that she was special. The cave was very deep. They were lucky that there were no forks in the cave. Yashua tripped and fell to the ground. The boys kept going deeper and deeper into the cave. Suddenly Aru told the gentleman to duck. She used her knife to protect him from the gawker. These are monsters that look like eyes. They hide from their victim in the darkness and then attack sharply. Sequoia added that they are very tasty by the way. Another monster made an attack. It shot a laser out of its eye. This world is full of surprises. The boys reached a fork and had to decide which way to go. Yashua was scared out of his wits when he saw a whole flock of bats. The boys found where they could get excrement. He suggested that they gather what they could and get out of here as soon as possible. It was very difficult, but eventually they found a good place. He believes their expedition ended successfully. At home, Charlotte and Ellie were waiting for them. They would start cooking dinner right away, so Ellie asked to rest properly. Yashua asked to prepare the bathroom for them first, which Ellie would help Charlotte with. Ellie had taught Charlotte so many things today, so she wanted to thank her with at least this. The girls are done, so now it's Yashua's turn. As soon as Ellie was done with dinner and cleaning up, he asked to stop by to see him. After this adventure, each of the boys set about getting a good night's rest. Yashua's whole body was breaking down. He decided that he should exercise more often. Blacksmithing was now part of their scientific research. Even though they had not found all the materials they needed, they had acquired a very useful companion in the form of a penguin. At least this way they can advance their science. Their scientific progress depends entirely on having the right materials. In addition, one must consider what they need in the household. As Yashua had asked, Ellie dropped by after finishing her chores. He told her to sit down. The boy sensed that she was using perfume. The girl thought it was necessary since he had invited her. Yashua realized it by the smell of sesame oil. Perfumes and luxurious food are not necessities, but they are very important to create a sense of a rich life. He never once thinks about it. When he thinks about how much he still has to do, he involuntarily gets a headache. Ellie agreed with him, but she was sure that he would definitely succeed. The guy realized that he would have to take small steps to get there. By only providing people with shelter and food, he wouldn't be able to get them comfortable. He realized this thanks to Ellie, so he is grateful to her. The girl thought herself unworthy of his gratitude. Yashua noticed that she was much more nervous than usual. It must be very awkward to come to a guy's room at this late hour. He called her because he wants to ask her something. She spent all day today with Charlie, didn't she? Was she able to tell her about her new responsibilities? Ellie revealed that Charlotte spent the whole day writing down everything she said. They worked without breaks. Even at lunchtime, they did not get distracted by cooking, but snacked on the go. Yashua realized that Ellie had a hard time today, but nevertheless, she still came to his room at such a late hour. The girl replied that she was ready to come to him anytime. He asked her not to overwork herself. Sometimes it is better to rest properly. His words touched Ellie. He counts on her help tomorrow. Yashua reasoned that since Charlie had taken over some of their work, they should redistribute the responsibilities of the others. Unless Ellie was mistaken, he wanted to meet with Mr. Paul and the others tomorrow. She suggested listening to their opinions on the matter and deciding then. Yashua thinks she is right. He thanked her again for stopping by at such a late hour and told her to go to his room and get a good night's rest. Fresh in the morning, one might ask, what happened then that night? The answer is simple. Ellie went back to her room and Joshua immediately fell asleep from the day's accumulated fatigue. More people will attend the meeting today, which Joshua can't wait. He was visited by Richmond, who was honored to speak with him, as well as Paul the carpenter. Joshua thought that Paul is a regular man, but Richmond wears a mask and a black cylinder. Now he understands what Walter was talking about. A very unusual man. He's glad to meet them too. This is the same Richmond that Runberg knows. He met him yesterday. Joshua thought he was lucky since he was able to meet an old friend. So, he moved on to the agenda of the meeting. Joshua told them about the projections regarding the residents staying, about the need for residential buildings and infrastructure, and also about the lack of magic and burning stones. In short, about all their problems. Charlie analyzed the residents. About 60% of the residents are farmers, merchants 20. The remaining 20 are artisans. Charlie could half-heartedly understand what Joshua meant by analyzing the inhabitants. There are about 1,000 people living in their lands. Runberg can't believe that the Lord is respected by so many people. Their current plan is to create housing for 3,000 people. Joshua asked Paul to tell how many people are employed in building the houses. About 100 people. In parallel, they are trying to build barns to improve the quality of life. Joshua wants to make Paul responsible for carrying out this plan. Paul felt uncertain about his words. If they don't have enough wood, they can build houses with bricks. Paul replied that he could do it. Joshua is counting on him. He also wants to put Runberg in charge of resource extraction. He should assemble a squad of 50 men and keep in touch with the construction team. If they lack anything, have him go out to mine the necessary material. Can he have Richmond oversee the security of their town? Richmond doesn't seem to have the right qualities for the job. Walter tells Joshua that he is quite capable. Of course, he doesn't mind if Richmond consults with Walter and Runberg. After all, it is a very difficult job for one person. His offer is a great honor for Richmond, but along with that, this job requires a very responsible approach. He is very eager to see with his own eyes the rise of this city and him in particular, and it is for this reason that Richmond feels he is not fit for the position. Joshua wondered if something had happened to him in the past that had shattered his self-confidence. Anyway, many people who came here have discarded their past. Some have come here with their families to start a new life. There are even adventurers among their residents. Some traders and laborers have abandoned their jobs, and some have come to this land because they were driven out. What they left behind, what was taken from them. To some these are precious memories and some despise these things. Oracle is the city of the future. It is a city whose inhabitants aspire to a brighter tomorrow. Once here, people stop clinging to the past and think only of the future. Joshua doesn't know what Richmond was like in the past. However, it doesn't matter. What will he say? Will the Richmond who now sits before him be able to help them? The man is about to take off his mask, but the boy decides it's not necessary if he doesn't want to. Joshua is sure he put it on for a reason. It must be very important to him, so he doesn't mind if he stays his masked knight. Richmond realized that the people weren't lying and the gentleman was really very kind. No words would be enough to express how grateful he was to him. He vowed that as long as his body could move, he would follow all his instructions and would gladly take over as chief of security. They were one step closer to creating a prosperous city. Joshua heard that the land here is being cultivated. It's a beautiful field. Farmer Thomas reported that the crops have not yet grown enough to be harvested, but they have no problem with food because they have plenty of cassava to cultivate the fields and to clear land for building houses. And it looks like they will have no problem with harvesting. They are starting to grow other crops and hope to be able to harvest in the fall. Joshua is looking forward to seeing her. Charlotte asked him to come here next time. The boys visited a local farm. They have a few cows, sheep and goats each. The salmon birds are still in their houses, but they plan to build a birdhouse and a fazenda for them. There is someone who looks after the farm, but not permanently, but in shifts. Joshua thanked Charlotte. The farm and ranch were better than he had expected. The girl replied that it was not. She had just arrived. It was all done by the boys from the town of Oracle. The saint didn't think such a thing was possible. If the form was filled out, she asked to put it on the altar, but she was in a hurry to tell her something very urgent. The Earl of Seyfrieden has declared his independence. He is a nobleman with lands in the northwest of the duchy and has close ties with the empire in the north of the duchy. What will the saint do with Count Seyfrieden? Would she also gather the commander of the military chiefs of the order for a meeting? The girl did not think it necessary. They would certainly gather as much information as possible and could help her deal with it. The saint explained to Mr. Granner that God hadn't told them anything. Therefore, there was no need to do anything. Yes, it's an oracle. But God told her something else. She must prepare a cure immediately. Yashua has been in Cumberland for several months. He is involved with the town and its development, resumed the manufacture of batteries, has perfected the materials. It's just a matter of figuring out how to generate power. He's going to need some help, and Reiju will provide it. They have a deal. He will help Yashua for syrup, the sap of the Cumberland maple tree. Then he can come to the forge tomorrow. Sojiro became interested in the Thunder Beast. Is that bluish-white light electrified? Yashua asked Sequoia to ask him if he could have some of his hair. Reiju replied that he could take some around his tail, and the boy persuaded Sequoia to help him with it. Yashua explained that he used it in the filament of a light bulb and found that it lasted for a long time of use, so it could be used instead of tungsten. This material seems easier to work than tungsten. Sojiro can't say for sure until he studies its properties, but it could find other uses. Yashua decides to look into it later. Right now, he just needs to know what kind of current is flowing through the Thunder Beast's body. He told Sequoia to sit here. Ellie squats down next to Yashua as well. Touch is the easiest. Visual exchange is difficult. Now the boys could observe a special light, mana. If you look at magic as an academic discipline, seeing mana is probably elementary. But it was new to him. The pale, glowing charge beats in time with his breathing in the same way. The ankles are not charged, perhaps because they are relaxed. The mana movements do not seem to be centered on his back, which is charged. Ellie inquired about his opinion on this. He knows that the Thunder Beast uses mana. He needs to be able to track the mana a little longer so he can say something more than just that he sees it. Yashua sees the movement of the Thunder Beast's breath. Ellie replies that that is not it. It breathes mana. Briefly, the air is full of mana and they take it from the air to sustain life. If only Yashua could see the mana in the air. By focusing on it, he discovered it. Now Ellie offered to follow her movements. Is the mana absorbed directly into the Thunder Beast's body? It seems that the greatest amount of mana is absorbed through the mouth. Absorbed mana spreads throughout the body. Yashua and Sojiro come to the same conclusion at the same time. It seems to them that the hair of the Thunder Beast acted as a catalyst and converted mana into electricity. The closest similar mechanism the penguin knows is bioluminescence. He explained to the boys that bioluminescence is a luciferase reaction, but he believes that the electrification of the lightning beast is also a kind of mana reaction. Sequoia doesn't know about luciferin, but magic doesn't just occur when you think about it. She has explained it before. There is a logic behind it. Like a chemical formula in your brain or an imprint on your body, it depends on each. You have to accumulate mana and transform it. Life in this world is like the circuitry of a computer that constructs and activates magic. Thus, is it safe to assume that the Thunder Beast's technique is in its wool? After confirming this, Sequoia added that magic is directly flowing in it. The hairs are used to convert mana into electricity. Yashua suggested that he needed to see a particular hair. Sequoia replied that not only could it convert magic into lightning, but vice versa. The boy realized that it was then possible to create mana from electricity. Sequoia decided to draw them a formula. Yashua never ceased to be amazed by magic. He couldn't understand it at all. Then, after some time, trial and error, the battery was ready. It's still in the prototype stage. Sequoia suggested that the guys run it. Yashua realized that he forgot to make the AC/DC converter. Sojiro needs a converter to make the current constant, otherwise he can't charge the battery. Just generating electricity does not make the current constant. Then the penguin will get it ready right away. Yashua remembered that the converter requires a semiconductor, a diode. Sojiro praised their excellent technology, a shiny light bulb. Yashua remembered the vacuum tube. The bipolar vacuum tube is one of the greatest diodes. You can control the current with it. This is the thing that Sequoia helped him with when he was developing a light bulb that vents. He asked Sequoia to create a magic formula to create a vacuum. The girl promised to prepare it quickly. Magic really is amazing, isn't it? The battery is ready. The intricate glass metalworking technology is a credit to Tor and Garm. Sequoia developed the magic formula. The rest is up to the penguin. Yashua wants to make a magic stone using electricity. It was his idea and the boys shaped it. They get mana from tufts of the Thunder Beast's hair. Yashua asked if Garm and the others could see mana. He called Sequoia to them and told Sojiro not to worry. They had already cast a spell. Soon they will see it. But something confused the boys. Yashua is sure that the mana is coming in. Turns out the mana is leaking out of the battery. It goes right through the glass. The guy wondered if they couldn't keep the mana inside. Maybe they could encase it. That is, seal it with some kind of magic to keep the mana from leaking out. Sequoia supposed there were several ways to do that, but she wasn't sure if she could do it manually. The girl turned to her personal storage. To do so, she uses arachne's threads. They have mana blocking ability. Yashua thought she could just wrap it around him or make a cloth out of it. The girl is too lazy to do such a thing, so she'll just spin the yarn with her magic. The guys noticed that it was getting harder and harder to extract the mana. It's building up inside the battery. They placed some bodies as a test. The collected metal, a former magic stone that had used up all the magic contained in it and was now just a stone, and stones found on the riverbank. They will leave the electricity on today and see what happens the next day. Addressing the people, he can't help but thank them for all the hard work they do day in and day out. His compatriots from the border province of Camparland. They have finally reached a point where they can build a bridge. It will be a hard road to the goal, but he believes that they can easily climb the highest mountain. They can do it, they have made preparations for it, and now all they have to do is see it completed. Yashua hereby announces that the construction of the Rubicon Aqueduct and the Oracle Aqueduct will begin. The opening of the water and sewer systems will enrich agriculture, commerce, and everything else in their lives. He suggested that all move forward together as one people. Garm and Tor are in safe hands. With their help they will be able to accomplish everything. They are looking forward to it very much. Tor can't wait to see the water go over the bridges and is thrilled at the mere thought of it. But they won't be able to conduct water into the houses. They'll have to rely on the magic stone. But that depends on the results of the experiments. This he had not expected. Sequoia hoped that the former magic stone didn't have some mana left in it. In just one night, it had recovered. According to Sequoia's analysis, a stone that had depleted its mana reserves could be filled with mana and turned into a magic stone again. All other samples that can accumulate mana are filled with mana. Pebbles picked up on the riverbank were becoming the same. Iron became a blue metal, but silver hadn't become mithril yet. It seems that the amount of mana it contains is still not enough. Lead and glass are also filled with mana, but they haven't turned into magic metal either. Iron probably turned out because of its high purity. That's interesting. Sejiro would like to try this with different substances. Different substances require different amounts of mana to turn into magic metal. Perhaps magic metals are rarer than ordinary metals, and iron and silver can be obtained in large quantities. In other words, thus blue metal and mithril will eventually become readily available substances. That's amazing. It's revolutionary. Not only is mass production of magic stone possible, but mass production of magic metal is also possible. Large-scale infrastructure construction has begun, and the supply of magic stone is on the verge of being unprofitable. From now on, Oracle City will grow by leaps and bounds. Yashua's goal of holding out for the next 3 years is becoming a reality. Let's go back in time a little bit. The lands of people, now divided into territories, were once united for a short time. For convenience, it was called an empire. The empire's power over a vast territory overwhelmed the few remaining countries and regions led by other races. Neighboring nations feared that the empire might continue to expand its territory, but it never invaded other countries. The empire entered a period of civil war just 10 years after the unification of the human nations. The leading lords became independent, and a time of rivalry ensued. But instead of buying them off, the emperor either took them in or established friendly relations with them. The Holy See was most active at this time. The emperor made the Holy Faith the state religion and avoided wars because of their teachings. To those who fight in doubt, to those who are at their wits' end, to those who hold the sword in their hands, to all men, the saint offered her unfailing prayers. The Holy Faith gained followers as the empire grew. It also became the state religion of the Duchy of Rudel, an independent princely state created by Duke Rudel. The Duchy of Rudel. As the saint said, there are signs of illness. How did such misfortune befall them if they had always listened to the previous saint, Yashua, the oracle, and her gift of foresight? The girl declared that her faith would not waver, but she was also concerned that the judgment of those who receive God's word may not always be correct. If the Duke stays here much longer, he will be miserable. He will not find peace here. He brought prosperity to the duchy, and now he's being cast out, no matter what God says. And this saint, one of the subordinates, wondered if he had correctly understood the meaning of the divine word. No one knew whether to leave the Duke to them, and what saint Yashua would say to that. Everyone wondered what he was living now, and the city of Oracle continued to prosper. Yashua consulted with everyone, and they moved forward with the construction of the aqueduct. He was surprised to find that the girders of the bridge were already in place. It had only been 3 days, but it had been so fast that it was hard to believe it had been done by hand. The city's waterways are going underground for future convenience. Construction seems to be going well. It is too large for the current population, but quite suitable for future development. Once the minimum infrastructure is in place, Yashua would like to do more and more things that will enrich people's lives. However, this is not too big a dream. He asked everyone to be sure to take a break. Yashua realizes that their health is the most important thing. Sequoia continued to investigate how much magic is contained in the stone. It's a test of the magic content in one unit at the same volume. It is impossible to make a comparison unless the conditions are the same. From the experiments conducted, it was found that if electricity is converted into mana and minerals are placed in a container filled with mana, they become magic ore containing mana. The girl informed him everything they knew at this point. There are other metals such as lead and tin. Yashua would like to try them in the future. He would like to help, but it's hard when you can't see the amount of magic power. But the penguin figured out how it worked by watching cassiterite coal, which has the lowest content. Yashua thought he now understood their language, but that turned out not to be the case. Sejiro can only speak one-syllable words so far. He gave an example of being able to speak. Now he at least understands it. What the penguin said earlier about watching the coal. When the coal turned into a burning stone, he asked Sequoia to observe it carefully. And the results of this showed that the conditions for change were not saturated. Even after turning the coal into a burning stone, it still absorbed magic power. How much magic power was absorbed after the change? To find out more, he asked Sequoia to help him set the unit of magic power, but the problem is that he can't see it. It's rather inefficient to leave everything on it. Yashua is sure the penguin is right, but if it's a burning stone, if they prepare one at the moment of change and one that has absorbed magic power to saturation, and burn them, even those of them who can't see magic power will be able to notice the difference. It's tricky with a small stone to burn at the experimental level. We'll have to look in the footnote. In conclusion, when using this battery, you need to use either glass sand or crystal, which can absorb much more mana than the burning stone. Otherwise, the experiment will be subpar. It turns out that a small combustion stone refined in the battery will have no effect. No significant difference was found with small combustion stones purified in the battery. If they cook a larger combustion stone, or as Penguin says, try a different material, they might be able to figure it out. Don't they already have a glass sand cup? Sejiro replied that since Tor and his team are busy with a major construction project, they don't have anyone who can turn glass sand into glass. He thinks of going to the rocks where glass sand can be mined later and see if there are crystals there. But as Yashua realizes, it is difficult to mass produce it at this rate. Even if he succeeds in the lab, unless he can get it into the hands of the public, his wish will never come true. Yashua would rather work on energy than on large-scale construction. With burning stones and magic stones, they could live happily ever after. Why don't they work in parallel? The priority could be mass production. But they still need masters to mass produce energy. Sequoia, unable to hold back her curiosity, asked what they were going to do about mass production. Yashua doesn't know if this matches with the penguin's idea. He thinks there are two ways to approach it. One is to solve the problem of the lack of horsepower to charge the magic stone, which means building more power plants. But here a small problem arises. The girl suggested just building a bunch of water wheels. The guy explained that water wheel power generation is limited by a battery as small as this one. There is a fundamental lack of energy, steam, wind. Then there is thermal energy. But thermal energy is probably not technically feasible. Sejiro thought wind power was the best. Steam is the next most efficient. Thermal energy should be abandoned. Yashua wondered if there was a strong wind on the rocks on the other side of the river. The penguin doesn't know if he's headed that way. Sejiro would like him to go and observe. Personally, the guy would prefer steam as a fuel. Penguin uses the magic stone and combustion stone from the water wheel to power the steam engine. But, given the law of conservation of energy, he can't produce more electricity than he uses. That's the point. If electricity is used to produce fuel, it's a path to depletion. That's the conundrum. This only aroused Sequoia's interest. It all starts with the first step. She can't wait to be there from the beginning. They're trying to do something that hasn't been done before. It's only natural that it won't work. So what's the other approach? Yashua explained that the other approach is to build a stable basic theory, figure out the relationship between magic power and ores, especially mana density and mana absorption mechanism. The girl once again didn't understand anything. If they could figure out the theory, they would reduce waste and produce more efficiently. Sequoia realized that if they couldn't change the amount of electricity produced, then they should reduce the amount of electricity used. Either way, more steps need to be taken. After all, they need both basic research and power generation facilities. Yashua addressed the people, explaining that he wanted to get to the other side of this mountain. It turned out that there was no way around here. They had not explored the mountain because it was dangerous, but they were told that there was a river on the left. She and Aruru traveled a long way and found themselves almost at the end of the climb. The girl has never been here before, but she can still tell. Her ears and tail can sense it. They finally made it to the top of the cliff and got a good view of the miners. Joshua checked to see how strong the wind was. The visibility is good. The wind is not blowing as well as he had hoped. It is the same as down below. Aruru discovered that there are animals nearby. It's a small animal, most likely friendly. If it's not dangerous, they decided to take a look. Watching them is very calming. Joshua remembers seeing them when he was on the ground. They're so cute, just like children. I think they were called quokkas or something like that. The penguin seems to know exactly what they are. The guy would love to keep looking at them, but they need to move before he provokes them. He's interested in looking at those hills too. This one has a nice open rocky slope. He decided to look at the geology. The color is more like glass sand. I wonder if the geology is the same on all these rocks. Aruru suggested looking for caves. While it's still light, they can search a bit, they have a good chance. The girl analyzed where it is. She used her ears and tail to do so. This is much more efficient than his visual search. Yes, he relies on Aruru's eyes. The boys found many small caves like this. Joshua recognized that Aruru's second eye is awesome. It's great that she keeps finding things one after another, but if they keep wandering around without respite, they won't be able to catch their breath. The guy apologized to her for not having to tell her what to do. She could tell the size and shape of the cave if she knew what it looked like. The cave should be big enough for them to fit inside. Big enough for the two of them. Aruru realized which direction they needed to go. Joshua noticed the distinctive orange fruit. He told Aruru that he would like to do some botanical research. He was interested in learning about this leaf. It had been a long time since he had used this ability. He'd be lucky if it turned out to be an edible crop. Guy used the plant assessment and confirmed his expectations. They turned out to be pumpkin and yerba mate. Both plants are edible. The leaves of yerba mate branches can be roasted and drunk. It is used to make yerba mate tea. Mate is made from pumpkin and its jam is delicious and juicy. The boys decided to pick some and take some home. The pumpkins here are all small. Maybe they will find some big ones if they look. Both are tired after picking. Joshua suddenly remembered that they were supposed to explore the caves. Aruru pointed to the right one. The cave was simply magnificent, and Joshua was not deterred by the fact that it was a bit cramped. It was okay because he had prepared for it. He created the lighting with a magic stone. Out of nowhere, out of the darkness, a flying creature crashed into Joshua. The boy panicked, and the maids struggled to calm him down. Their attention was suddenly drawn to a strange wall. He cheerfully announced that Aruru had hit the jackpot. There is a vein of purple crystal in this cave. Joshua would say amethyst, but there might be a clear crystal in there as well. They decided to look for it. When the boys went deeper, they also found a vein of quartz crystal at the end of the cave. They won't know how much quartz is in it until they dig it up. He hopes they can use it to create a magic stone for tens of thousands of people. They still have a lot of work to do to generate electricity and make mana or magic stone. But this cave should be enough for their material needs. After all, a crystal could hold 20 times more mana than an ordinary magic stone. Even a small piece of crystal could become a long-lasting stone. Moreover, even if the mana in the stone runs out, with a mana production method that utilizes electricity, the stone can be filled with mana and reused. Pumpkins, yerba mate, crystal veins, they have made some great discoveries today. The boys began to think about what they should do with the plants they had gotten. Previously, the boys at the farm considered the pumpkin, or more specifically, the yerba. This is another brightly colored fruit and more of a vegetable. It is sweeter than usual and becomes firm when cooked. When it opens, there is a seed inside, so you can get busy growing it. Although composed of leaves and twigs, it grows on tall trees, so it is difficult to grow, but it is more convenient to pick on tall trees. Charlotte liked the sweet flavor of the pumpkin. Joshua offered to cook it for the holidays, which Aruru promised to help with. The boy said he would try cooking pumpkin, but how to cook it? Before he was reborn, he lived alone and seemed to cook from time to time. Since then, he has hardly cooked at all, so it will be hard. Aruru advised the gentleman to roll up his sleeve. Ellie was shocked to see this. Joshua noticed that he and Runberg were just in time. He was about to wash the dishes and wondered if they would help him. The guy had to roll up his sleeves again. He just rolled up his sleeves. What was Ellie thinking? Runberg realized that they were going to cook these berries, and Joshua explained that it was called pumpkin. Runberg also brought processed tapioca. As the boy evaluated the plant, he realized that he could drink tea with milk and tapioca for the rest of his life if he could figure out something to do with them. It's so delicious. He decided what he would do with the pumpkin. Joshua suggested making baked goods for the tapioca milk tea. Together, the table was set with all sorts of goodies for dinner. The boys started pumpkin tasting and had this wonderful time together. Next day, Joshua told the boys that there was not a particularly strong wind on the rocks. He had his own thoughts on that. Sujiro and Sequoia had synchronized thoughts. Cumberland is a border region and an adjacent principality. From a village like this in the principality, the border is not far at all. But here, one can obtain both magic stones and burning stones. Even the vegetation is different. The village has a lot of weeds and bushes, and there were also long trees growing there, though he doesn't remember a cassava tree among them. If he had seen its distinctive leaves, they would have definitely stayed in his memory. Then he thought that there was an invisible restriction here. If we take the phenomenon of continental plates colliding as an example, could there be such a thing as a boundary where mana collides? Perhaps the penguin does not know this, but the vegetation here is very different from what Joshua knows. Sujiro replied that there are a number of factors that determine climate: physical distance, the sea, the wind. Even a small difference in elevation can result in different temperatures. Joshua would like to ask Eru, before they came here, did she feel the fluctuations of the wind or the rays of the sun? In other words, was there a sudden change in climate? Of course, the carriage was traveling too fast to notice, but was there still a change? The girl replied that there always are. Eru is more perceptive than he thought. To him, wind movements are as trivial as opening and closing a door, but not to her. He thinks she clearly perceives that the wind has changed. He asked her where was the point at which the wind changed the most. After thinking for a bit, Eru replied that it was the Rudon Plateau. Joshua knew that. Of course, it's strange that it has such a high-profile name. After all, it's just a bunch of hills. Joshua thinks that the Rudon Plateau is the climatic boundary between the frontier and the principality. The climate changes dramatically there. I mean, they're going there tomorrow. He thinks it will be fun. Maybe it's not as bad as he thought. The penguin apologizes for asking him to massage his back. Joshua realizes that he is always trying his best. Even so, he swims in the river, so it's not a problem. The boy loves baths and wants to solve the problem with the magic stones and build a public bathhouse as soon as possible. There are baths on the estate, but infrastructure deficiencies prevent it from being a mass affair. Of course, plumbing is more necessary than a bathhouse, but still. Just as Ellie used perfumed oil, so too are luxury goods and amusements necessary for life. One must gradually take steps toward it. A woman's shouts were heard from the door, from which it was clear that Sequoia wanted to take a bath with the boys. Joshua was sure that Ellie would keep the uninvited guests at bay. After she did barge in on them, he changed his mind. Sequoia stated that she was wrong to try to keep Joshua to herself. Suddenly things were resolved so that Ellie had to join them. The girl tried to hold on and not let different thoughts overwhelm her. The next morning, Ellie woke up the gentleman with the words that they were having a little trouble. People can't decide what to do. Joshua realized that they had better hurry. He would change his clothes and be there in a minute. The boy asked her to tell the penguin not to leave before he got there. In the crowd of people, Joshua met Walter. He stopped in front of a cage with an animal he had never seen before. It seemed to have gotten into the food storage upstairs. However, that's where they keep the cassava. The guy assumed it was an herbivore. He means it could be a domesticated animal and thinks they would be good for a haircut. Long, straight hair, grayish-white. They seem like they could be used. It all depends on their fertility and diet. Walter leaves it up to him. Joshua needs to consult with someone, so he offers to go with him to the ranch. He wants to talk about how he can take better care of them. Besides, he wants Walter to do something for him afterward. Joshua apologized to Walter for working security. Working for him is a lot of fun. Sequoia thought it was great to be away from home after all these years. The boys enjoyed a snack together. The area around was surprisingly deserted. There really wasn't much to see, and this was the point they had reached together. Rudon Plateau. It looked like zombies were still crawling out from under the ground. It looks like a bird has flown over them. The Rudon Plateau looks a little strange, it seemed to Walter. He can't explain it. The sky moves differently. The penguin noticed that it might rain soon. Even though it is too hot, he can feel it. The sky was blue and sunny. It must not have been more than a few minutes since it happened. Strange indeed. There was definitely something wrong with the air currents. Joshua thought about trying to fly a balloon next time. He should fill these balloons with light air and launch them into the sky. Eru doesn't know what a balloon is. The girl asked if he would take her up into the sky if she rode on it. Joshua reasoned that if they want to fly, a big balloon should be made. He thinks the material should be the skin of the frogs that Walter brings from time to time. It can't be used as rubber, but its ability to remain elastic and not tear when drying could be used for the balloon part of the balloon. According to Sekoi, a small amount of magical power allows it to stay fresh. This is possible if there is a storm raging a few dozen meters above the ground. It seems to be a mysterious air current. He thinks it will help them. Yashua wondered if the penguin agreed with the idea of the observation balloon. The material of the balloon is fine, but what about the gas that could be put inside? Hydrogen seemed like a reasonable choice to the penguin. The guy thought, hydrogen is easily produced and is the lightest of all gases, so that's good enough. But a balloon that people can ride in is a different story. Sujiro added that hydrogen burns well. Yashua's memory is a little hazy, but he's pretty sure he read in a science textbook. Hydrogen burns with hot air and lots of energy. Seems to be something along those lines. When hydrogen and oxygen combine, it burns with a rumbling sound that was scarily creepy. Maybe they could harness the energy of fire, make a burner out of rocks. Penguin realized it was like a balloon and supported his idea. Sequoia realized that they wanted to fly. As Yashua thought, she had already flown. The principality had a flying dragon to ride. The girl declared that a wizard of her level should be able to fly without a flying dragon. But of course she flew the dragon. It was great. Yashua pulled her to him, not realizing what she was doing. Sequoia replied that just because she was pretty, it didn't mean you could just hit on her like that. Suddenly he had a request for her. He asked her to take off. The girl thought he was hitting on her. Returning to his request, he added that he could only trust it to her. She should back off a little. Finally Sequoia took off, flashing her underwear. She wondered if such a height would be enough. Yashua asked to fly a little higher. The wind seems to be stronger than he thought. He is worried about the whirlwind. Penguin thinks it will work. The optimum distance was 10 to 15 feet. If they got up to 20, Yashua would be more worried about the strength of the wind. Penguin thought maybe 12 feet as a center point. He could see the cables moving. Sequoia flew for a while longer. By now the bridge was completed. It was finally over. It was spectacular. Runberg couldn't stop crying. It was too magnificent. Yashua wondered if there was any chance of dangerous creatures coming from across the river from behind the bridge. Runberg can't say for sure, but the bridge is very sturdy and can be seen from a great distance, so he's sure that it can be handled with bows and the like without any problems. Guy realized that it could also be used as a defensive base. He suggested building a watchtower at the entrance to the bridge.